Thank you for joining us. My name is Michael Mill. I'm here with the mayor of the village of Pinecrest, Joe Corradino. Thank you for being here,
Michael,
Mayor.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be back.
One of the great things that the city is able to celebrate is the 30th anniversary right here, baby. Read it.
Can you believe it? 30 years, Village of Pinecrest?
It is just unbelievable. It went by like so fast.
In a blink of an eye, right?
Yep.
That's what they say.
And for the people that don't know, who think that Pinecrest has been around forever, who are some of the fathers and the mothers and the grandparents of what the formation of the village?
Oh my gosh, the founders were Evelyn Greer and Gary Matzner, and they put this thing together, I guess, with the example of Key Biscayne for a variety of reasons.
Yes.
And it took them a couple of years, starting probably in 94, probably, and got done in 96. And here we are, all these years later, 30 years later, and we still trying to live up to their example and their goals, objectives, and those issues as we go forward.
So 1991, it was Gene Stern. I've forgotten the lady's name,
Stern,
Maddie
right.
something or other, if I remember right. Prior to Key Biscayne, the last city before that was 1949.
Right.
And it's
Right.
just like unbelievable. And you turn around and the people in Miami-Dade County, they wanted to have their own communities. They wanted to run it. They were tired of having to go downtown, and they wanted to live in a community that they were part of. Pinecrest has among the best reputations in the entire county.
That's
Period.
good to hear.
That's what I hear.
We work very hard
Yes.
at that.
How you've been in office how many years?
I got elected for the first time in 2006. And before that, I served on the planning board starting in 2000. And before that, I was one of the consultants that helped the village write its first comprehensive plan starting in 97. So I've been engaged with the village almost my entire adult life and professional career.
That's amazing. So to what do you attribute the great reputation that Pinecrest has?
Hard work, dedication, excellent staff, and institutional knowledge.
When you compare the other areas where there's so much squabbling going on, we never heard it coming out of Pinecrest. There's something that occurs when you walk in. It's like walking into the library. Shh. All right.
It's not like we don't squabble, but we have, from the elected officials' perspective, we want to conduct ourselves with dignity and grace and some class. And in any organization, you're going to have differences of opinion, and those differences of opinion are welcome and valued. It's just we don't want to be unprofessional on the dais. And so when there's when we would get irritated with each other over the years, we pull it offline and we will argue our personal differences out behind the scene where nobody can see it. And that's been wonderful.
When that occurs where you can set an example, that means that there are people in the future that are looking and say, I want to be part of that, versus other cities and areas where it just gets crazy and people go, I don't want to be part of that because it's too, it's too vindictive and it's too personal.
I would go as a young urban planner, my job, I'd go and work with cities. So I'd go to city councils and I would watch some of them behave, and I was embarrassed for them in a sense. And it's a hard job. It's thinking in public. It's talking in public, and it can be you can say things that make you look silly sometimes. But we figure, look at politics today and governance today and the behavior that's happening, and it is embarrassing. And we want to make sure that we hold ourselves to a higher standard. Our decisions may not be any better than anybody else's, but I think we try to conduct ourselves in a better way.
And that does matter a lot.
I believe so.
Yeah. And, I hope these little kids that are in junior high school and high school get involved in student government, and they're going to go into college, whatever it is, to be involved. There was a young man who was getting his degree from FIU, and he would attend some of our meetings. He'd see all the politicians. Well, he went to physical therapy school at FIU, and he became involved in Tallahassee for all physical therapy law that was being passed. He said, Michael, that's because of you. And I said, all I did was expose you to it. And that's what we think that the local government's about, where you can go there, you can watch it, happen. So what are some of the issues that the people in Pinecrest and the surrounding areas are concerned about now?
Well, look, we have local issues, we've got regional issues, and those are the things that we're super concerned with. I mean, all of politics at this level is hyper local. We want to make sure that we've got in Pinecrest clean streets, a great tree canopy, be environmentally friendly, have affordable housing, those types of things. We've also got regional issues. We've got the environment, we've got the economy. This is all in Miami-Dade County, transportation and traffic, and again, affordable housing. And those are worthwhile debates. The cities can do things about their own streets and their own tree canopy, but it takes all the cities and the county to get together on the regional issues of economic development, transportation, affordable housing. And that's what we try to do, bridge that gap, do our own thing individually, but we can't build emotional walls around Pinecrest because we need to collaborate with Palmetto Bay, Cutler Bay, South Miami, and Miami-Dade County.
We know a lot of the people that are south of you complain about all the cars that people moving into homes, and they have to drive through the area. I don't know how many other ways there are to move the people. I mean, you have public transportation and cars, maybe flying boats or something. It is what it is.
We are a young county when you really kind of think of it. I think Miami, the city of Miami incorporated about 100 years before Pinecrest in 1896 or something like that. And up and like you said, there was almost nothing south of 88th Street until almost very recently. And so now the population growth has started to flood into South Dade, and it's created a problem. But yeah, we have roads and we have a burgeoning mass transit system that we need to work on. And economic development and telecommuting are two critical things that are often overlooked. If we were to put more jobs in South Dade, we could reverse the flow of traffic without a $1 billion rapid transit system. South Dade doesn't have any major employment centers. I think Cutler Bay is working on that right now, and I think it's going to be immensely successful in mitigating the traffic impacts to the communities.
I'm glad you brought up about the public transportation. The system that's there now on west of the US 1 BRT, I think it's called, that was $300 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's a third of $1 billion.
Yeah.
Almost. All right. So when we say billions, you're serious about that because that's what kind of money it takes to make those changes.
Billions of dollars. And if we were to build an elevated metro rail system, it would have cost over $1 billion, and it wasn't warranted. The federal government has technical criteria that you need to pass in your rankings, and we just simply didn't meet those criteria. So we would have, and as we had done before in Miami-Dade County, submit applications, wouldn't have met the criteria, would have failed, and you would have waited another 10 or 20 years to do anything. This was an interim step, 100 million local, 100 million state, 100 million federal government, and it's the best we could possibly get at the time. The alternative was nothing, and this is much better than nothing.
Yes. For a while, a couple of years ago, we would constantly hear about the 100,000 plus septic tanks that are in the county, and people want to do away with it. People forget those pipes that are underground. That's the aging septic system, the sewer pipe. I understand the county's looking for or about to receive a $12 billion something. All right.
That would be fantastic.
And so the first thing is on the coastal end, not that Pinecrest is the coastal, but certainly
pretty darn close.
Yes. And we hear a lot about North Miami Beach area and North Bay Village. People in Pinecrest are all in septic tanks, right?
Almost 100% of our single family homes are on septic tanks.
And recently, the village got county water. We usually call it city water, but it's county water.
Yeah, it's county because they own the system.
Yeah. And when was that installed for most of the people?
That came over time, but I think it was installed probably within the last 5 years, post-pandemic, I believe.
So here we have the $10 million house, $8 million house with a pump in the ground, literally. Right? I know it's sort of uncanny. You know, we think you're out in the rural end, but it's not.
I think it shocked everybody, particularly when I moved here. I'm moving into, at the time in the late 90s, what was an expensive neighborhood, and you realize that you had third world infrastructure. You had a septic tank, and if that wasn't bad enough, you pumped your water from a well, literally, like you were on a farm somewhere way out in the hinterland. By the way, the well drew right next to the septic tank, so you can only make a couple of deductions from how that worked. And by the way, that's gross and unsanitary. And number two, you had power poles on sticks that were put up in the, 50s, 40s, and they almost would fail in the anticipation of a storm. Yes. And you'd be without electricity. You would be without water, because with no electricity, your well wouldn't work. And for young people with children or old people, you basically had to leave town.
And as far as getting water, I know taxpayers someplace paid for it. Well, was any extra charge to the people that live in Pinecrest?
We won a grant from the federal government that was instrumental in doing it. At that time, it was really in total about a $20 million project. And we, at the time, probably had a $30 million budget. So it was impossible for us to do. We had designed a project. We got it, what they call shovel ready and ready to go. And like they say, luck is the residue of design. We got into the right place at the right time and were able to find some money for a project that was ready. And we were able to implement it at very little cost to our taxpayers.
Sometimes people don't give enough credit to what's in the water. But I can tell you, I live in horse country. And before we brought in county water, which is pretty pricey 20 years ago, I had some animals that died. The vet says, don't bring me the animals, bring me the water.
Yeah, right.
And he's found it in the water. He says, it's not enough to kill them, but it's enough to make them have to fight off getting sick. And he said that leads to the getting sick. So I'm glad you have.
It's just not a sanitary way to live. Our water was relatively clean, and we would people would test it every so often. But why tempt fate?
Yes. So what are some of the other infrastructure issues that are facing Pinecrest? And infrastructure, peacocks. Let's talk about peacocks.
All right, and so Pinecrest is a great place because we got all these crazy things going on. We've got hundreds of $1 million worth of projects, and largely the question that if I'm going to get yelled at something, it's probably about peacocks. So go figure.
Where's Dr. Don when you need him? Hurry up, Dr. Don.
It's working. I see more. Well, you know what happens? So our Shannon Del Prado, our council member who's running for mayor, had this wonderful idea that about almost using a feral cat program where you spay, neuter the cat, yes, put them back on the street. So let's do that with peacocks. This was a fantastic idea. And so we trap them. The doctors trap them. They give them the vasectomies, if you can believe it or not. They put them back on the streets, and they put a little tag around their arm.
Oh, you see the tags?
Yeah, you see the tag. I saw two peacocks walking together with tags, which that was kind of concentrating the solution of the problem. If they were separate, right? So they're mating with each other. They're both sterile. Yeah. They need to go elsewhere and spread it out. But it's working.
And if the village was not doing that in 2 or 3 years, there would be thousands more.
There were thousands more, so I say, than there were years ago, just by dead reckoning. And there was no way to stop the proliferation. So this is the best solution.
Are you sure that your neighboring cities are not bringing the peacocks over to let them where there's acre and 2 acre properties?
There is a beautiful, not albino, but white peacock in Palmetto Bay. And I keep saying, we got to go get that one and bring it. It's just remarkably
Mayor,
beautiful.
You heard it here first.
Tell Mayor Cunningham we're coming for that peacock. She better give it up or we're going to close the street.
Okay, so what other infrastructures? Things.
One of the hot topics, functionally important infrastructure is drainage, stormwater drainage. We have very few stormwater sources. We have no sanitary source. So right now, what we've got is we're constantly implementing our drainage master plan over time and making sure that where needed, that the residential properties, as they redevelop, retain their own water on site, doesn't transfer into the public rights of way. It doesn't transfer into other people's yards. So we're constantly pecking away at that, which is slow but steady, doesn't get noticed too much. And we can do these projects and people don't grouse too much. We are working on our bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Florida is one of the most dangerous places in the nation to be walker or ride a bike. While our streets aren't overtly dangerous with accidents and these types of things, we're feathering out that infrastructure over time with multi-use paths and really in the process beautifying the community. We're just completing the 88th Street Trail right now. It's a linear park, multi-use path. It's absolutely beautiful. We cut the ribbon on it yesterday. It's a total upgrade to the community. That meets with a lot of resistance because I have this principle of proximity. Like when you do zoning, people that are immediately adjacent to the issue are going to get irritated at. When you do a linear park like that, you're touching hundreds of properties. Even so, we probably had less than 1% of those properties really complain about the issue. And so it's a labor intensive in the sense of political capital, public engagement, those types of things. But it's so much well worth it. We look a lot different today than we did 30 years ago because we do these projects.
And let's look again, you mentioned about the bicycles where it's pretty dangerous for people in the state of Florida. Why is that?
Well, we're not built for bicycles. We're almost completely a post-World War II community that was physically designed for the automobile. the bicycle and the pedestrian are afterthoughts, not like in communities that may have been designed pre-World War II when most people walked. This was not. It's an afterthought. Everything, all the emphasis is placed on moving cars quickly. And that conflicts with the pedestrian bicycle. But that's ending. We're starting to tackle it now.
Years ago, when the county was putting bike lanes in front of our office down there, I said, well, why are you, there's no connection. He says, Michael, today there's no connection, but down the road, if you will, there could be, that's what's happening, planning ahead, knowing that there's a strong possibility that there would be.
We started off, we understand the county's regional trails, and they're not all built out, but they work wonderfully. We started off with the idea, let's do what they called safe routes to schools. So we looked at each of the schools and we tried to decide to make connectivity from each direction for bicycles and pedestrians. So it was safe from a half a mile or a mile out to walk or bike to school. Start to do that to schools and then connect with the county's system. The main part of the county's system are the old Cutler Trail, which goes from up north all the way down to Black Point. You got the Metro Rail Trail, which is now the Underline to Dayland that goes all the way down to Florida City. And we thought, why don't we connect by making a ladder across South Dade with facilities that connect those. We did a few years ago in partnership with Palmetto Bay on 136th Street. That's done. We did our part now on 88th Street. That's been completed. Cutler Bay's working on theirs. And then we'll start to put some down the spine of the community, 67th Avenue, that will connect with the county's trail, the Ludlam Trail, which would go all the way up to the airport on the old railroad tracks. That will go right through Pinecrest, beautify 67th Avenue that looks terrible right now. Roads in bad condition. The trees are diseased and becoming a hazard to people. That will all get replaced with wonderful, brand new, large specimen trees, and that'll be something that we'll really be proud of.
So, and Metro Rail was built, I think, was opened around 84-ish.
83-ish,
yeah.
83.
And nobody would walk underneath there because it's like a terrible thing. So here it is, decades later, due to Meg
Daly did a great job.
Right. She was the one that headed that thing. Right. And
Fantastic.
She was able to do that. And now we see it around here where it's walking and running and bicycling, really an amazing thing. And my father in the 80s used to run Metro. I said, there underneath, I go, are you crazy?
Get mugged down there.
Yeah. So here it is.
No,
and now everybody's going.
And they said she was crazy for doing it. It'll never work. People don't ride a bike or walk. They do. People, the people that are moving to our community right now want to go out and ride a bike. They want to walk. But they need to be safe doing it. We'd be doing an injustice if we didn't do that.
So Victor Dover, who you know.
Yeah, great.
So years ago when he started saying, I think we should have bigger sidewalks, all right? And maybe it could be live work type of thing. People everywhere say, oh, that'll never work, right? Deli Lane is a perfect example. Big sidewalk out there, cobblestone, and that because of that, and around the county and all the cities, which is adopted by a lot of the cities, people would eat out on the sidewalk. Who would ever thunk that 40 years ago? Who wants to be
Victor and Joe Cole, because those guys are visionaries and futurists, and really they were right the whole time. And now the county's adopted that for much of the US 1 corridor going down south. It's the right thing to do. Takes time though, hard.
Who are some of the other visionaries right now?
Visionaries right now? Oh my God, I love Mayor Cava. She's wonderful. She does a great job. A lot of her staff are fantastic. I think that we start to see people coming up in the community nowadays that are newer to volunteering and elected positions that are going to become visiting. Mayor Mirbot, what they've done in Cutler Bay is absolutely phenomenal. The vision that it took, not only to put the charrettes together way back when, it kind of mirrored the Dadeland charrettes, but when they incorporated Cutler Bay, did it for the Southland Mall, but they really acted on it. They changed the zoning, and now they've got, I don't know what it is. You have to have Ralph or Mayor Mirbot, but super development that's going to change the face of South Dade. It's going to make a true impact on the way we live and work. It's going to reverse the commute largely and eliminate a lot of this traffic that you can do nothing about really, except for the economic development.
And so, the village down there, the town down there is going to have a new city hall.
Yeah.
And they have acres and acres. And it's going to be like on a park, if I remember right. It's going to be a big deal. Would people be able to go there with their baby carriages and their friends and walk around and play?
They are the most forward-thinking city in South Dade. And they're, in my opinion, they're going to be the downtown of South Dade. They'll beat all of us. And and we don't want to be. We're more of a bedroom community, but yeah, they've got it going on. They'll be more like the Doral. Doral's the downtown of West Dade. These guys are going to be the downtown of South Dade, and it's going to be.
And so often, you've been in this field for a long time, and the area has to get really bad before somebody will come in and say, "I have this vision. Let's go in and do that." That mall had failed for 30 years, and then finally, the timing was right, the money was right, whatever it was, and they made that happen. So my hats off to.
They did great. What a great job. But it took 20 years to get it done. So nothing happens overnight. But there you go. When you see the vision of somebody like Mayor Mirbad, who was on the first council in Cutler Bay, and Ralph, who was, I think he was the first public works director. I mean, there's institutional knowledge that makes these communities thrive great over time. And they are certainly a recipe for success.
And so for people that have institutional knowledge, I'm reminded about the plumber that goes to your house and I got this, the homeowner said, "I got this problem in 5 minutes. He fixes it." And he charges the people $500. They go, "You charge me $500 for 5 minutes?" "Yeah, because I knew where to go. I knew where to hit that thing with the hammer." And so it is when you have institutional knowledge. You don't have to go and find out everything because you already have it.
You're just more efficient, and you've learned that way.
And we see there's a lot of homes, apartments going in south and on 248th Street, 268th on US 1. That's because we have a housing shortage.
Yeah.
And the term affordable housing, would you explain to people what that term means? Affordable housing.
It's a whole formula, but it's a percentage of the median income. All right. And I'm not going to get totally into the formula, but it's X percent of whatever the median income for the statistical area is, which is not just an individual city. So they don't calculate it on Pinecrest median income or whatever, but it's a Department of Labor statistic in a way. So they go through this math formula, they figure out what that number is, and then you try to make sure that the people, that target population, that you build housing that they could afford for that. And what's the old formula your parents taught you, that that the housing should be 1/3 of your annual income or something like. So that's kind of the layman's way to target that. The hard part in South Dade is how are you able to build something that fits that criteria? Because land values and construction prices are extraordinarily high, and a developer can't make that math necessarily work without some incentives.
And what are those incentives?
Those incentives are in at least, you can do tax abatements, you can do density bonuses, you can do height bonuses primarily to get those things to work, because you need a lot of units. The more units you have in a building, you can lower the per unit cost.
And the government might say, "Listen, if you do more affordable housing, we're going to allow you to get certain things."
Right.
The more it is, the more breaks you get. Maybe it's going to be in height this way, or maybe it's going to be less cars, whatever. And speaking of cars, will there be more apartments being built without whatever the minimum criteria is today? Is it more or less one car per apartment?
Will there be more apartments built without criteria?
Yeah, without a need for cars.
As South Dade matures, I think so. And the reason that, people grouse about density all the time, but I think it's a giant misunderstanding about density. If you start to build density way out west, you're not near anything, you've got to necessarily drive to work. Yeah, that's a problem. When you start to use that density along the transit corridor, within a half mile of the transit corridor and the transit way, then the people that have those apartments or condominiums are able to have an alternative way to get to work. And so if we're putting them in the right places, I think by necessity, people are going to give up their cars because they just won't have to have them anymore. And what I think we're going to see is that to get to work or to go places on the transit way is going to be competitive in two ways: in time and in cost with the automobile. And I think we get closer and closer to that every year. And as that singularity in a sense starts to happen, it's going to be a paradigm shift. So many people are going to just want to be in that environment. By the way, I'm 58 years old. Maybe my generation doesn't want to be in that environment, but my children who are in their 20s, I believe that generation will thrive in that environment. Because, by the way, I don't know how my kids in their 20s are going to buy a house in Pinecrest, because there's probably not one that's worth less than $2 million. So it's impossible for for somebody to break into that
And
market.
sometimes people say nobody would want to live down there. Well, look downtown. All right. Look downtown. Look at these places where they go. And I go downtown way too often, and people are walking around. It's everywhere. It's not like the old days. It would be like from 7 in the morning to 5 at 5 o'clock. Then everybody went home.
No, you roll up the sidewalks back 30 years ago. Literally, now you can catch your own dinner. All you need is a net. You catch a chicken, and you go home and get it because there's so many chickens out there. It's unbelievable.
Okay, so tell me about Homestead and Florida City. We have a new mayor in Florida City. I've forgotten the name. She was 35 years as a state trooper, I think, out of Tallahassee.
Yeah, fantastic.
I met her a couple of times. Really very nice, cordial woman. Do you think they'll be, because it's first mayor in 40 years, first new mayor in 40 years, what is a new mayor should they do to try to work with other cities?
I think, well, I've met the mayor. We have these, what we call them, the South Dade Mayors Coalition, where we get together on a monthly basis just to bat around the issues in South Dade. And Florida City started to come into those. Mayor Wallace did a great job, but he was a strong mayor. Totally different way of government than any other city.
That means he ran the city.
He ran the city. He was the chief executive officer of the city. And so almost every other government in Miami-Dade County is a mayor, council, or council manager form of government, which means the elected body, the mayor and the city council, sit as the board of directors. They hire a professional manager. The professional manager does the day-to-day operations of the city. So Mayor Wallace recognized that it would be very hard to have a strong mayor in Florida City, converted it to the council manager form of government. They hired a professional city manager. And so my advice would be do what the rest of us does, hire the best manager that they possibly could, which they did. He's wonderful, and stay out of their way. Let them do their jobs, operate the city on a day-to-day basis, and just as the elected body, set policy for how you want the city to operate. And if it goes awry, you go yell at the manager.
I understand that Ralph Casals worked for the city of Florida City like 40 years ago.
Yes. I think one of his first jobs out of college, I think, was there.
Yeah. All right. So you spent a lot of time being mayor. I know you enjoy it, but your term as mayor is about to be over. When is that?
I'm done in November.
Is it like I know you really enjoy this, but most boatmen, they have 2 great days of their lives. All right. So I know it's not quite like that, but so as you look to that which is really right down the road, what's it like for you for the first time not preparing for the next election?
It's great not to prepare for the elections. That's the wonderful thing. It's not the elections that are the issue. I mean, Pinecrest has been a great community. It's been the honor of my life to have worked for Pinecrest for I moved to Florida in 96 and immediately was involved with Pinecrest and ended up, here I am literally 30 years later. And it will be sad to not think about the village of, I've thought about it every day, substantially, a large chunk of my time every day for 30 years. And so to not have to do that's going to leave not only a vacuum of time in my life, but it's going to leave an emotional vacuum because I've enjoyed it 1,000%. It's just been one of the greatest experiences that anybody could ever go through. It's been a hobby because it doesn't pay.
Say that one more time so people don't think you're making $200,000.
Yeah, I don't get paid for the job. It's totally volunteer. Like I say, somebody actually sent me an email. We pay your salary email, and I had to report back. Well, I'm looking for a raise because 0.00 is no way to make a living.
So as you're getting to this point, and it's not unwinding, but you certainly are thinking back and you're rehearsing these last 30 years. What's it like for you when you sit there and you think about that and you're reminiscing about that?
It's heartwarming. It's wonderful. I think I tell all the folks that are coming to be elected officials, it's difficult to start. You're not very good when you start, or at least if you look at your career, the part where you were the worst was in those first 2 years, and you evolve over time. And I'm lucky because I had only evolved through 8 years as a city council member, but then another 10. I got 10 years as the mayor, so 18 years in total. Elected since gosh, 2006. It's an evolution in your personality, your style of governance, your interaction with your staff and the communities. And I have to say, when you're done, you're the best you could be. And but it's time to go, right? You can only be around for so long.
Well, that's 18 out of 30.
Yeah, elected.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And prior to that, you were also very involved.
Planning Zoning Board, chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board, and working with the village as a consultant to help build their infrastructure, comp plans, and those types of things.
So you've had great council members, great partners in this.
Great
My
people.
hats off to you and to the other members on the team there. So Gren and I wish you lots of good luck.
Thank you so much.
And you'll spend more time doing something else.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. Mayor, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, let's look at this camera right over here.
Right there?
Right there. And this is what we're going to say. Grant and I, my brother, subscribe to the Disney rule, which is when you hug someone, don't stop until they do. And Mayor, why don't you look and say something notable?
Oh, you want me to say something notable? I didn't take any notes to say anything notable with. I want to thank the people of Pinecrest. I want to thank them for allowing me to serve the village for the past 2 decades. I want to thank all of the council members that I've worked with before and currently for being such consummate professionals. And I want to thank our staff, our village manager, Yoselin Galliano. Remember, Yossi was probably our second or third employee. She was our assistant manager during incorporation. She's been with us the whole way. And really, the success of Pinecrest is almost completely based on her ability to be creative and lead. And all of our staff members, she's hired the best staff in the business. And I want to thank them as well, because that's what makes Pinecrest great.
Good. Mayor Joe Corradino, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate it.
Folks, have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Bye now.